Hello, always nice to have you join us. This is Platform. I'm Ruth Aguela. Nigeria, as a multi-ethnic, multi-faith, and multicultural country, implementing effective and equitable policies and interventions to promote socio-economic growth is mandatory. And realizing the need to bridge the inclusivity gap of leaving no one behind in line with the Sustainable Development Goals, the federal government established the National Social Investment Programs in 2016 to address socio-economic inequalities among Nigerians to improve the living standards of vulnerable groups across the country. Now, the NSIP, which is under the purview of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, has four main clusters, which include the Empower Scheme, the Conditional Cash Transfer, the Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program (GEEP), and the National Homegrown School Feeding Program. Now, the Empower program targets youths by building skills and promote entrepreneurship. The Government Enterprise Empowerment Program (GEEP) seeks to address the challenges of access to credit facilities by providing soft loans to Nigerians through the Trader Money, Market Money, and Farmer Money initiatives. The National Homegrown School Feeding Program provides 1 meal a day to public primary school pupils with the aim of increasing school enrollment and reduce incidences of malnutrition among children. The Conditional Cash Transfer Program provides cash of 5,000 naira to vulnerable households as grants. Now, recently, the NSIP bill, which seeks to provide legal framework for the establishment of the National Social Investment Programs, was passed into law by the 9th Assembly. But the question is, how has the ministry been able to provide accessibility of the different schemes to targeted groups, promote inclusivity and accountability? On Platform today, we take a look at sustaining the NSIP for national development, and our guest is Engineer Umar, National Coordinator of the NSIP. Thank you so much for joining us, Engineer Bindu.
Thank you very much. It's
always a pleasure. And congratulations, you've added one more feather to your cap. Aside being a traditional holder, he is the Babam Mufti of Adamawa State. We're pleased to always have you on Platform.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so our panelist is Laraba Mure of the Abuja Inquirer newspaper. Laraba, thank you so much for joining us as always.
Yes, thank you for always having me here.
It's our pleasure. So let's take you through a bit of Engineer Binder's profile. Engineer Umar Bindu is a PhD holder. He has his bachelor's degree in agricultural technology. He has a master's from the prestigious Cranfield Institute of Technology, UK, where he also obtained his doctorate degree. He professionalized as an agricultural machinery design and development engineer. That was in 1987 and 1991, respectively. Engineer Bindu has numerous professional qualifications and awards, including Chartered Engineer, UK, current registered in Nigeria, Fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Engineering, Fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, Fellow of the Nigerian Institution of Agricultural Engineering, and National Productivity Order of Merit awardee. He has served in the academia and was a director for several years in the Federal Civil Service. He has also served as the Director General CEO of NOTAP, one-time SSG to Adamawa State Governor. Thank you so much for joining us once again. And while we just delve into the conversation, sustaining the NSIP for national development, that's the focus. And Engineer, I'm sure you have been on ground, I'm not just sure, I've seen you on ground, when it comes to coordinating the affairs of the National Social Investment Programs, ensuring that it's well implemented across the states. But the good news is it's been passed as a bill now. That's to say there is sustainability guaranteed. But you tell us, based on your observation, looking back from 2016 when the NSIP was established, would you say it's actually fulfilling its true mandate?
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, any serious developing country, to me, has 3 steps to actually move to enter the corridors of development. The first step is that you must make sure that the generality of the population of that country have access to basic necessities of life. People must have access to food, people must have access to clean water, and so on and so forth. But governments cannot concentrate and continue giving just that. You have to go to the next step. Next step means while you are providing these basic necessities as the responsibility of government, you must now make sure that your majority of your people, they have skills which they can apply in jobs for gainful employment so that they have a bit of money in their hands and they're busy, and then they can be able to participate in the economy. That's the second level, meaning you have to create a middle class. Then the third level for you to enter the corridors of the development of countries that are really, shining and branding themselves up there is that you have to now take a step on institutionalizing and branding your country to actually be marinated and rotated on a platform of knowledge, to become knowledge society, so that institutions are matured, institutions are good, they precede even leaders. You don't need to certain things politically, economically, morally, and technically. So our country has, since 1960, been a developing country. And the definition of a developing country is that you have a reasonable content of poverty. Once you overcome this poverty, this primitive, absolute poverty, you will also start growing into an emerging economy, and then you become developed. So, unfortunately, we've been on that. And our leaders know this. Our leaders know these three steps. I have not seen any leadership or any government, be it democratic or military, that has not introduced a program to actually attempt to break the backbone of poverty in this country. If I take you down the very narrow lane of even just back to Abuja, forget about Operation Feed the Nation, Green Revolution, Abuja implemented FEAP, Family Economic Advancement Program, thinking that will break the backbone of poverty, and then our people will now fizzle out and then become skilled and so on and so forth. After Abuja,
let's not really dwell into the history.
Yeah.
Let's focus on this present, the
NSIP. Yeah.
Yes.
So you see, drag it right through to the NSIP with, as you said correctly, the 4 clusters. Now, we operated from the beginning, the N-Power, all the lodging, the young people who are interested to participate in N-Power goes to a portal and put their names. We do the selection quickly and engage them on the 3, N-Teach, and Agro, and so on and so forth. Then all the other programs like that. Even cash transfer, we started by paying on the table. It's cash. You just count 5,000 and you give the caregiver.
I witnessed that.
But then you see down the lane, you have seen the maturity of N-Power. Now we know how to select these young people. We know how to get the places where they are attached. We know how to monitor them. We know how to link them with the school management. So we've matured from the basic things where we were rushing to now a very, very organized, structured engagement of young people within the community. We've moved with even the cash transfer from that cash, very primitive way of counting money and dishing it, to now 2 million benefiting households. Every single household caregiver has an account with a card, and now we do e-payment directly to the beneficiary. We used to pay the cooks during school feeding by hand because they don't have accounts and so on. Now every single cook has an account. So we've seen the maturity of the program through all the clusters. And that was why the President Buhari then saw the maturity of the program, the impact of the program.
The former president.
Yes, the former president, 2015 to 2019, to 2023. Now, saw the maturity of the program to say that if we're not careful and we don't learn from history, that every program dies with the administration, this one also will go. Despite the fact that we moved it from the office of the vice president into a ministry and we drove it over some time. So now that was how an executive bill went to the National Assembly by, after passing through the rigors of the Federal Executive Council. And then now we have an act establishing the National Social Investment Program Agency. So I think this is the beginning of the institutionalization process, sustaining the program such that it is an agency. All the clusters are now well structured. The workers have been trained over the last 4, 5, 6 years, and digitalization is embedded into the program. And to me, these are ingredients that makes the NSIP totally different from the past programs, and then on its track for sustainability.
Okay, now you just gave us the background of where we were and how we're trying to pick up now. What would you say is the gain of the NSIP to Nigeria's National Development Plan? What would you say specifically? What are the gains?
Well, actually, NSIP is not just a policy-based program. It's a program based on numbers. Okay. You know, the N-Power, you can confidently say that we have been able to deploy the processes, selected 1.5 million young people, engaged them, and most of them have now garnered the skills through the Empower. These are graduates. Now they have gone ahead with their lives from totally unemployed and vulnerable to now in a structured platform of life. You can now say the school feeding even has a policy approved by the Federal Executive Council, from just people thinking that it is food that children come to, by understanding that the food is a magnet. Put the food in the school, then children will now start moving to school to now actually get an education. It has now become a tool of reducing the out-of-school children. It has become a tool for lifting the quality of even the local women in the community entrepreneurially. It has become a tool to engage farmers, small-scale farmers in the community, to produce more. So again, you see, this is again to the plan of whether it's agriculturalization or skilling or whatever. Okay. You have seen how the Jeep has actually penetrated the markets, picked the traders on the streets, picked small-scale farmers, empowered them with realistic loans that are interest-free and that are also collateral-free. Totally a unique, innovative package to now push people to be performing. We've now seen the effect of the cash transfer. People think it's just cash. Some people even call it drain, you know, money drained. No. Our women, these women that know how to smoke fish, they know how to extract oil out of groundnuts, they know how to make yogurt and furada nono, they know how to smoke snails and so on and so forth, have now become entrepreneurs. Just that 50,000 in the household. So this is the energy of enterprise, of skills, of competencies, of engagement that NSIP has brought onto the communities, and then by implication has actually shaped the National Development Plan progressively.
Engineer Bindu, I know when it comes to the NSIP, we can keep talking from now to tomorrow. You're very passionate about it. But based on what we have seen played out, you know, from Nigerians regarding being part of the schemes, the different schemes of the NSIP, one thing is very important. You know, having Nigerians, that is the targeted groups, or that's the poor and vulnerable groups, you know, having access to it, and then accountability and transparency. There's been a clamor for that gap, that not everybody is being, you know, breached when it comes to accessibility of the schemes. I have reported on the field based on this NSIP, so I have heard different stories, you know, positive, negatives, and all of that. But you tell us, how have you been able, as the national coordinator, ensure that these programs are streamlined and no one is being left behind? I know it's a gradual process, but what are the strategies that, you know, have been in place to ensure that people are actually getting involved gradually?
Well, you see, first of all, the poverty level in this country is very high, you know, going beyond 40%, and 40% of 200 and whatever million people is a lot of people. Now, the key to actually ensuring transparency, accountability, you know, normalizing the participation is the targeting process. The targeting process has now been refined by the development of the social registers. The social register is not a register that you just pull anybody politically or whatever. It's a strategic methodology down to the community. The chiefs, the youth leaders, the women leaders are the people who actually coin houses that are poor and vulnerable. And that is a database. As we speak, we have more than 60 million Nigerians on that database. So when you do the targeting, who should get, who should not be able to consider now, the targeting process digitally becomes useful. Secondly, you see, we've devised all this, as I said before, NSIP is about numbers, and it is about numbers in budget as well. A lot of people think when
that budget aspect.
when they see that 400 billion or whatever allocated to NSIP, people go, oh my God, there's a lot of money. But listen, Ruth, in this country, go to the site of the National Bureau of Statistics. There are between 25 to 30 million graduates walking the streets. And don't mind that they are graduates, they are vulnerable too. When somebody is tightened up, no job, no money, they can become anything. Yes. And you can see how the evolution of Yahoo boys. If you take only 1 million out of these 20 to 30 and you engage them in Empower Graduate on a stipend of 30,000, which most Nigerians think is too small, it is a 30 billion naira bill every month. In 10 months, it's 300 billion. So this is expensive. That whole money that people think is a lot of money for all the 4 clusters can actually just be drained by only 1 million out of 20 to 30. So you must target well. You must make sure that that young person that has been captured is really a young person who is a graduate and who is unemployed, who lives in the community, who is prepared to teach in the community primary school, and therefore the 30,000 naira will become useful. That technique of targeting is the key. Secondly, all numbers, we have 36 states and FCT. When you say we have 1 million allocated for Empower, how do you share it? The way we devise it is that take 20% of that figure. We call it equal distribution. Everybody must have a number. Just divide it by 37. So 20% of the total divided by 37, so you have a number that is equal to everybody. Then because you are trying to tackle poverty, 40% of that total, you base it on the poverty incidence. So poverty incidence, you get it from the Bureau of Statistics. It's not our data. Sokoto has an incidence of 88%. Lagos has an incidence of 4.3%. So on that 40%, when you prorate based on the incidence, Sokoto will get the highest number. Lagos will get the lowest number. Then you get another 20%, and you base it on population. The 2 most populated states in Nigeria is Lagos and Kano. Those 2 states will get the highest figures. And then the list is Bayelsa and FCT and so on. They get the lowest. And then the final is on number of local governments and so on and so forth. So it is these 4 figures that you add, and you get the total number that beneficiaries in that state must benefit. Now it's up to us to make sure that that number does not get violated. You don't reduce this number, add it to that state, and make it unfair. So now we move into the state. And you recall, Ruth, that every state has a focal person. That focal person is a local person in the state appointed by the governor, and they're expected to have the same commitment to share it to their local government, males and female, young and old, and so on and so forth. So that is how the fairness cascades down. But you see, this is theoretical, you know?
Sorry, so let me just interject, because that is where I think Nigerians are concerned about how transparent the process is. Do you think that these focal persons, these youth leaders, do you think that they are being effective in selecting these vulnerable households? Because I feel that is where the question is coming.
Well, you see, this is Nigeria, it's our country. If a state governor can choose somebody who is totally not transparent, what do? You expect the governor to care for his people, care for the population in that state, and choose somebody who is God-fearing, who is technically prepared, who is a busybody that can run around, who is committed. But if he goes and chooses a politician who is running helter-skelter, then what do you do from Abuja? Do you now go to the River State and say, River State Governor Wike, you must be able to... No, you don't do that. So to us, the NSIP is a gradually developing process. From the federal, we set the standards. We are very committed. We strengthen our monitoring and evaluation. We ensure that we have data. Everywhere is digitized, so that even if you want to manipulate it, it will be minimized. And that is how it works.
I'm glad you mentioned monitoring and evaluation.
Yeah.
I know some time back, not too long, the ministry engaged independent monitors because she talked about the focal persons, if they're being fair in their judgment, of implementing these programs effectively. These independent monitors are made to understand we're strategically positioned by the ministry to, monitor the happenings of the implementation of the NSIP, ensure that the focal persons are doing the right thing. These schemes are reaching the targeted beneficiaries. So what are the reports? Because I know more than 7,000 independent monitors have been engaged. Even the CSOs are also involved on their own terms, to check the level of implementation. So what kind of report, as the national coordinator, have you received?
It's actually fantastic. There are 3 levels of monitoring. First of all, you go to the local level. That is why the independent monitors, 7,500 of them. These are boys, many of them are graduates. They are given digital facilities. They are trained on how to use the tools and on that. And they are randomly, not just necessarily monitoring focal persons. They randomly go to the program down there. They talk to every care giver who is taking our conditional cash transfer. They go to the primary schools to meet the N-Power teaching. They go to where the school feeding. They don't go to the focal person and interview focal person. No, they may, but that is not necessary. But what empowers them is the data. Every tablet for that state has the list of all the schools, by name, by local government, by what. They have the list of all the beneficiaries of the N-Power graduates. Which school are they attached? So the reports that we're getting from these independent monitors, who are every day visiting, they're on a 30,000 naira stipend too, just like the N-Power itself. And they report the device, it is on real time. Even if it is not connected to the internet, whenever they come to a place where there's internet facility, the data just comes to us. And you need to see what is actually happening, from their reports. Fantastic reports. You see the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I was going to ask if it's all good.
No. Of course you cannot get this. Okay. You see the good, the bad. There are schools where you go to, there is no feeding. There are schools where you go to, the feeding, the food is not good. But there are schools where you go, the feeding is crispy too. There are schools where you go, instead of feeding 5 days, they're feeding 4 days, and they'll give you a reason. All this they report. But we run to those schools and say, you are supposed to feed 5 days a week, and you must feed 5 days a week. And that is how the program has succeeded in training people. That is how the program has been evolving from a very weak level to now a level where we are only getting better and better and better.
Okay, I would like to still find out on this. You just mentioned what the reports that you get from the field. Would you say that the implementation, that's the involving of the M&E, that's the monitoring and evaluation group, would you say that it has helped the process? And then also, you mentioned that if they go to areas where there's no network and then they get to, how do they go to those hard to reach areas? Now, those are some of the challenges. How do you tackle those areas that they go and then it's difficult to get, maybe by reason of insecurity, transportation to get to those places? How do they tackle those places? Or do you still have reports from there?
It's a natural phenomenon in implementing this. You don't go to a state capital and engage all the independent monitors. Okay. The concept of the independent monitor is that you get the grassroots people. Every community, if you have a school and children are going to school, parents are taking their children to school, teachers are going to that school, of course people are living there. But if the school is empty, you can say insecurity is whatever, So engaging the independent monitors is also very, very strategic. We know their local governments, we know their wards, we know their villages, and we try as much as possible to say, don't be employed as an independent monitor there, and you have to cross 10 villages before you go to the other one. We try to localize it. But that's not the only monitoring we have, like Ruth said. We have the second level, where we engage the NGOs. And every program in this country, governmental, the most critical people or group of people is the non-governmental people. They will abuse everybody. They will tell you that you are not doing the right thing. You are not doing. We say, come and be part of it. They are trained. They are open the data, everything to them, and they are free to go to anywhere. And we get the reports too. At the highest level now, we at the federal level, it's not just the NSIP or the Ministry of Humanitarian. We are partnering with Ministry of Health. We are partnering with Ministry of Education. And it is these stakeholders that now come into teams, and then they go and take snapshot monitoring. When you put all these together, where I have seen in the last 2 years or so how it has helped us. When you read some of these things and you take your phone and you call the stakeholder there, why are you doing this? You know, a headmaster, you're conniving with a cook not to cook, you know, and you share the money. Why? It's not about carrying a dagger to say, I query you, I chase you, and so, or report you to the government. You try to make it work first. Once the guy knows that you are watching him, how did they know that? Independent monitors have reported. The NGOs have reported.
Okay.
Madam, please, that is not. And we have seen gradual improvement. And it is this gradual improvement that you need in the institutionalization process of programs of this nature.
Okay, when we talk about social development projects, of course, it's meant to increase, you know, access for the poor and especially for communities. What is the level of participation of communities? Let's start from the community level, the local government level, to the state level. Are state governors, you know, governments rather, you know, fully involved in the NSIP program? Because if it must be sustained, then it's a holistic approach. Everybody must throw in their weight.
Yes.
Not just at the federal level.
I think the letter N in the National Social Investment Program is the symbolic letter that tells people that this is the national. It's not a federal social investment program. If it was federal, we would have put an office in every state, put a federal civil servant to man it, and so on and so forth. But national, you talk to the governors, you know. Our challenge is literally to get time with the governors. Governors need to understand what the NSIP is all about. Otherwise, if you just say a federal government project, put a coordinator, we've seen in some states where the coordinator cannot even see the governor. But our expectation is that if a governor picks somebody to look at a project to reach poor people, that person, if he is having problems, he can actually see the governor directly.
When you talked to Engineer Bindu, sorry to cut in there, when you talked about hard to reach to the state government, one will ask, why is that? And what has the ministry done in that regard to ensure that accessibility is approved? Yeah,
you know, the thing is, if I am the governor, I understand NSIP. It's bringing billions of naira into my state in form of cash transfer to my poor, in terms of school feeding to children of my state in my own primary schools, in terms of empower graduate employment for my unemployed graduates, in terms of JIP going to my market women and so on and so forth. I will actually sit on that program and be even visiting the minister,
which is expected
every time now, but you don't get that all the time. So there are governors who either they're playing politics. If it is a PDP state, sometimes you get this feeling that, oh, if you allow this program to penetrate to the local people, and it is still seen symbolically as an APC program, penetrating that, when elections come, they will say, APC has helped us, votes might swing. So some people will have this kind of primitive thinking. Others don't care. They just go ahead and even support it with their money. They give they appoint the right coordinator. They give the coordinator a budget. They give him a good office. They send civil servants that are good to him, and he has a very, very good team. We've seen all that. But there are places where, when they say employ the focal person, the governor might say to the party leader, hey, we have this position. The federal government is implementing something in this state. Bring somebody. And then the party goes and brings a politician. And then he is given a letter as focal person. That politician does not have access to the governor. I mean, he doesn't go to the government house. I was SSG. I know how difficult it is. Unless you get somebody who is close. Now, unless that focal person is given opportunity to the State Executive Council every month to give the summary report, then commissioners are beginning to align themselves. The governor is beginning to respect, and so on and so forth. This is what we expect. But again, as I said before, it's a process. When you see, now if we are to talk to the governors, when we are talking to them, we tell them these experiences. In the last dispensation, we have governors who have done this, and that, and therefore we are hoping that it will evolve to a better level.
Larabat, just before you pick up with your question, let's hold on a bit as we take this break. Right. We'll be back. Stay tuned.
Allow these children to grow.
Yes.
Many of them, you have somebody 14, 15 going to the university. Where are you going? Information technology is the future.
Hello, a warm welcome to you. This is Platform. I'm Ruth Aguwele.
If you don't create that awareness and you don't bring the young minds to identify that there are benefits in astronomy.
We have had experiences through various leadership strata, bringing us to where we can
Platform engages guests on topical issues for national interest.
We have cases like that. We all to protect children and also make parents realize that they have a primary responsibility.
Join us every Thursday at 2 p.m. on the network service of the NTA.
Thank you for being there. We're still discussing sustaining the NSIP for national development. Engineer Bindu, I'm sure Laraba was going to pick up with a question before we went on that break. So Laraba, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to ask, from what you explained, why some states are backward, I would term it to be lack of political will by some of the governors. But now we have new governors and then we have returning governors. How do you think that the ministry can engage them for them to have a better understanding? Because it seems to me that some of the challenges that they are having is lack of understanding of how this NSIP is going to greatly impact their states.
Well, I think the NSIP has survived for this number of years in every single state of the Federation, and experiences have accumulated over this period of time. It doesn't matter whether you have a new government or not. This new government, just like the new government at the federal, is inheriting the NSIP at the federal level with a briefing, with an explanation, with documentation and data at the state level to every focal person is handing over to either the secretary to the government or to the head of service the details of their penetration in the NSIP. So I hope that particular sedimentation will play a role on how these governors take through. But then at the NSIP, because now it is an agency, it is now a self-accounting agency, you know, with a dedicated national coordinator. It has a board. I think the outreach to the states will be more vigorous than when it was generic under the ministry. You know what I mean? So I think the plan will be to target every single state with specific direction of how, what the NSIP is, what it has performed in every state, where are the general challenges that we have seen, and what we think can be done to actually improve on that. If we have problems, we'll come to the federal and say, look, we're trying so hard to make sure that we neutralize it. It could be political. We can be helped to solve it. It could be economical. We expect the state governments to also play, to give these offices money to go and monitor, money to set up their own data system, money to train their staff, not from the federal again. If they don't give it, then that particular state will be weak. We hope we can overcome all that, and so on and so forth.
Engineer Bindu, I'm glad you mentioned money because you just gave me a lead to my next question, the funding. You talked about inadequate funding, though you didn't put it directly, but I want to assume that's where you're headed. Funding for the NSIP. Would you say it's not enough? Let's hear it from you.
Well, actually, no. The funding for the NSIP, just like most sectors, will never be enough, especially as NSIP is targeting the poor and the vulnerable population of our country. Fortunately or unfortunately, this number of people is large in Nigeria. The people who are miserable at the lowest level of the pyramid are many. If the number is low, and the National Social Register will show you that, you know, you go to all communities, you go to villages, there are majority of the people don't have access to drinking water. Their primary schools are not good. Many of the children are out of school. The women are unskilled and they are not banked and part. When you have the conglomeration of all these factors together, you know you have a big bang waiting for you. So, but the way to tackle lack of resources is two. It's either you pump resources, which is not readily available, or you use the meager resources you have intelligently. Intelligently in the sense that if you now target graduate empower very well, and that graduate will graduate to now create a job for himself and two others, now it means you have 1 unit of money for 3 people. But if you concentrate on just dishing out, you know, assistance to one person, it ends up with only one person, your targeting process is not as smart as you may think. So our own is to build capacity institutionally to ensure that state governments understand, our staff from here understand, our selection process should be fearlessly deployed so that no fear, no favor. This is a poor person and they deserve this at this point in time, and they are the ones that will get it. Engineer
Bindu, under the Empower is the N-Build, N-Skills, N-Knowledge and all of that. Are you seeing the desired results? Because I know these youths are being engaged. That's for the non-graduate section. Are they really yielding that result that they are being trained for?
N-Build and N-Skills is fantastic, and it is there for everybody to see. And you see the design is in such a way that N-Build is for non-graduates, but they have passed secondary school, you know. They are the ones that have put their names on the portal and they were selected, and they go through an in-house training for 3 months. That is hostel, they are being fed, and they are given theoretical and practical training for 3 solid months. After that, they are given starter pack. So they have mechanics, they get toolbox and everything. They have plumbers, they have the plumbing kits. They have electricians, they have the electrical kit, and so on and so forth. With this kit now, they are attached to practitioners in that trade for 6 months, you know. And we have seen total change in the lives of so many of these young people. In fact, in every state where we go to, some of the focal persons are more popular than even commissioners because of N-Build. N-Skills actually targets non-educated down to primary school graduates. You know, these ones were not in the platform, their data was not captured. They were actually mopped up in a strategic manner. They too, they are trained hands-on and they are given starter packs, and we've seen many that actually transform their lives and they become entrepreneurs. Let me not say that there are no problems. There are problems. There are some that you train them, they are normally absent in most of the way, and then they are weeded out. There are others that actually even go for the training. They give them the starter pack, they go and sell it. I mean, this is the natural social or development work that you will never ever get 100%. So, but our strategy is to try to say, hey, if we are training people and 30% of this data seems to be not attending, what is wrong with us? Is it actually that we are targeting people that are not supposed to be trained? Is it that the teachers are too harsh or whatever? This is what independent monitors will tell us, and those non-government. And we review the process with the focal person, with the program managers in the state. So as I said before, if you compare 2015-2016 with 2022-2023, you will see a very wide difference in terms of performance. We have now gone very, very well, you know, in 2020, 2021, 2022, than when we started 2016. But that is naturally how development works. Development work is complicated. The targeting poor, solving poverty is difficult. If it was easy, we would have solved it a long time ago.
You seem to like Empower a lot because it seemed to be one of the game changers in the 4 clusters. But there was this time that there was a story of how some of them abscond classes. What measures would you say that you would do, even though you said yes, you get the report, you do review? Is there a way that you will make them understand that it's for their own good, or how do you manage to bring them back on board?
Well, it's not like I like Empower more. It's just your questions flow towards Empower more. But I mean, all the others, they are similar. Okay. But you see, the thing is, it is the targeting process. When you target well, you will get better people to actually attend. When your targeting is weak, then you can get any riffraff to actually
So do we
come.
now take it back to the selection process?
Of course, yes, that is what we do. Now we engage the states more, the focal persons more, working with us. We engage deployment of information and communication technology tools more. We build our data faster. We do the analysis quicker. And we may even get to a level whereby before the selected young people are actually engaged, we'll even publish it on the newspapers to say that, just like admission, or NYSC to say that these are selected. If anybody has any problem with anybody, they can actually flash it at this stage.
That's where a lot of Nigerians are concerned. A lot of Nigerians will ask, people who are not opportune to be part of this, is how do I get involved? Why am I not being selected? Why am I not being given that loan? For that market woman now, why is she not giving loan? She will ask that question. Why am I not having access to that trader money, loan, market money, and farmer money? You understand? And also the conditional cash transfer. Someone will say, why is my grandmother not benefiting from it? So how is the selection? I know that you talked about the National Social Register, but is there, for future purpose now, expanding the scope, are there strategies that will be put in place to ensure that it's spread across?
In most cases, people come and give this complaint after you have passed the targeting level. JIP, for example, its implementation starts with a 3-month registration process. This registration is free.
Where do people get that information?
At the local, you see, this is where the strategy of utilizing the state structure is fantastic. For JIP, for example, we are using NOA, National Orientation Agency. National Orientation Agency have their community mobilization officers in every ward of Nigeria. There is no other agency that has that kind of. It is these people that we are using.
Because they say information is power, Engineer Bindu.
They are the same people who give you epidemics, information about epidemics. They are the same people who give communities information about flooding. They are the same people who give information about when they are giving blind people opportunities to. They are the same people. They are the same people that we are using to say that, look, JIP is so, and so we have produced so much material, radio, television, and so on and so forth. And the register is manual. It's not digital, so that you say, oh, they have excluded me because I don't know computer. Every Como is given a big register of something like 100 or so. You queue up, you come. Mary, how old are you? Where are you working? What kind of trade do you do? What have you done before? And they capture this. This data now is digitized. And if you digitize 10 million people and you have money for 1 million, then now you have a selection process. And that is how it works.
Sorry, I would like to understand this process that Mary has come and where she has taken, her detail was taken.
Yeah.
Is it that there is a time that is being announced that Mary should go to NOA?
Yes. Yes, for 3 months. This is the registration. It is not the benefiting level. It is come and subscribe that you want to participate in this. Give as much information as we have. We have used rural people, communities, NGOs to design this questionnaire. So this 3 months is just for you to go there. Then sometimes these Comos are sitting like that, and there's nobody coming to their office to register. They go out and announce again. When the 3 months is finished, you have to close it. This is just implementation of social programs. So when you move, and now you are doing the digitization and selection, people will now come and say, we didn't know that this is happening, but this is Nigeria. Well, I'm sorry to use that phrase. People will always say this. And people, I mean, you've seen the census, you've seen everything like that, but we have a job to do. So we take that 2 or 3 million instead of the 10 million that we would have gotten, we move forward. Then we come back second round. As we speak now, JIP is doing the registration for second round. So anybody who did not participate before, the opportunity is there and the information is readily available. So, I mean,
when you say the information is readily available, do they go to NOA or they go to the ministry? Where do they go?
NOA is the ones that we are using at the state level to disseminate the information and also direct people where to go and register.
So if someone wants to be a part of it,
yeah,
they walk on to any NOA office across the state?
First of all, NOA are on the radio constantly in the community. Where there's television signals, NOA are on television. NOA also distributes pamphlets. And we believe that in communities, there's also community dissemination. So if you get form, you tell your sister, hey, today I went and I got FOMO about JIPO. If you want, you can go, where? So we're depending on all these sources. Traditional leaders, NOA take the forms and all the tapes and everything to traditional leaders too in the community.
To tell their people.
To tell their people.
But you talked about something important, the selection process.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you've had 3 million people register because everybody wants to be a part of it.
Yeah.
What are the criteria, to select the 1 million that you will come down to?
First of all, this country has a fantastic structure of data management. You have 36 states and FCT. So you must know that you must have 36 and 37 blocks. You have 774 local government areas. So again, you have to re-break it to 774. Then you have like approximately 9,000 wards, right? And you have to break it. It depends on where you want to stop. It is at that micro level that you have a number that is allocated to that particular level. You cannot allocate it randomly. We do it smartly. That number now, you reflect it to the data. You may look at it on the basis, there are many people who are so old and they have not been designed on this, but they come and register. They are 89 years old. They have it. But we say people who are strong enough to create a change in the community are people within the 30s to 40s age. They are agile, they can cook well, they can fry well, they can smoke well, and therefore you now take all this, not that you hate them, but that is a program. So you exclude those ones. Then there are people who are employed already. They just think 50,000 will increase. Then when you capture the data there, that they are working in the local government, and they have now come to benefit. You extract all those too. So the process of cleaning the data is one level until you come to the compact data, and then you start thinking we need to give women 60% and men 40%, and then each has to be separated to these wards. It is a very complex matrix, but I mean, we do
anyway,
that.
Laraba, go ahead.
In the process of selection, how do you know that the person that has gone to get registered in the National Social Register has not participated before? Is there a biometrics that will prove that this person was not there? And then how do you know that this person is also working in the local government? Because some of them, I see where some of them come to say, my name was removed, and this was the report that was given why my name was removed, but this is not so. How do you clean the data to ensure that you have a proper data?
First of
just
all,
to add to what she asked, especially for the CCT too, I've seen complaints of, you know, is it for a lifetime? If I've registered as a beneficiary under the conditional cash transfer, do I keep collecting that cash grant for a lifetime, or it's a certain period of time?
The whole program for the National Social Safety Net program is survived between 2016 to 2025. I'm sure you've heard the politics of the $800 million loan that we have taken from the World Bank. That is to continue the cash transfer up till 2025. So it's a terminal. There is a period of time when it will finish. And initially, the design is that the households will be placed on a two-year period, and they have to graduate. While that 2 year is going on, you are paying. There are households that will require just a bit of top-up, and then you will see shops in front of their houses. You will see people now frying their kulikuli and so on and so forth. But when they exit, there's exit package to say, now you are gradually getting out of poverty, and therefore you need to graduate. So all these metrics of the process of selecting, operating it, graduating or exiting is actually well laid out.
Okay. Engineer Bindu, we have to round this off, but before I let you go, looking at the future, the NSIP no doubt has come to stay, going by the law. What do you want to see, better for the NSIP?
Well, actually, I would love to see the leading managers of the program be more competent and committed. We want to see very close partnership with the state governments to understand that this poverty is the problem that is causing all these myriad of challenges that we face. We want to see the deployment of technology so that you can assess where you are quickly, so that you can tell, yes, we were on 90%, now we are on 85%, very, very convincingly with evidence. I would love to see an opportunity, for the leadership of the NSIP at the state level, briefing government at the state, at the federal level, briefing the federal with more frequency, so that everybody becomes involved. And I would love to see partners, converging their support onto the NSIP rather than everybody is implementing their programs on islands. I want a synergized more focused
All
and
right.
partnered.
Engineer Bindu, Laraba, I know you want to have so many questions you want to ask, but we have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Engineer Umar Bindu, for your time on platform. We do appreciate, and we didn't state that the feather that was added to your cap, he's now the chairman of the board for the NSIP. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, waiting to see what will come out of the NSIP when it becomes a commission, hopefully, or an agency, hopefully. Fingers crossed. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Laraba Mure, thank you. She's a humanitarian reporter with the Abuja Inquirer newspaper. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you on platform.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we have been discussing sustaining the NSIP, that's the National Social Investment Programs for Sustainable Development or National Development, whichever way you want to put it. Humanitarian needs, you know, is everybody's business. And of course, it's a collective responsibility that requires social justice and equity to thrive if we must have a better and prosperous Nigeria. And that's where you have a role to play. Let's keep hope alive. I'm Ruth Aguele. Bye.